Hi, I'm Leslie, the manager here at Agave Farms. Today I'm going to be showing you how to prune a deciduous fruit tree. And just so you know, we do have other educational videos on our YouTube channel, Urban Farming Education. Please like and subscribe for more fun videos. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on deciduous stone fruit trees. So that's going to mean any type of fruit tree that loses its leaves and goes dormant for the winter time. So that's going to be any type of peaches, apples, pears, plums, things like that. We'll have another class later in the spring on how to prune evergreen trees, and that will be your citrus trees. Okay, so you may be asking yourself when is the right time to hard prune your deciduous fruit trees. And you want to do it while the trees are dormant. So that is going to be after the tree has lost all of its leaves, which you can see this one has no leaves left. Or also the first and second week of January is usually a perfect time to do it. So you never want to wait until too late into January. So make sure you do it as soon as you see all of the leaves have fallen off, and that's usually right before the second week. Today we're going to be focusing on mainly removing all of the branches that are growing vertically or straight down. The focus right now is to make sure that the tree is keeping all of its substantial branches that are growing horizontally and outward. So to create like a V shape is the goal today. And we're going to be removing all of the spindly little branches like this. And anything that's cross branching is a big no-no as well. That promotes disease, and also it can create damage. The branches will rub against each other and create damage on one another. So we'll be removing all of the cross branching, and that's going to allow some airflow inside the tree for cross pollination and also for sunlight. So the more sunlight we have and the more pollination we have, the more fruit production we're going to have in the spring. We are going to get started with our tools that are going to be needed today. You're going to need a nice sharp pair of bypass pruners, and you're going to need a pair of sharp pruning loppers as well. Or some people do prefer using a hand saw. Whichever you prefer, just make sure it's nice and sharp. That's the key, because we want to make sure that our cuts are nice and smooth, and we don't want to leave any jagged edges. So you can sharpen your tools with one of these sharpeners that are really easy to find at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. So we have our pruners open. We've got our coarse end down towards the blade, and we're just going to make movements upward. It's almost kind of like sharpening a knife. And you're just going to do that a few times until you start to see it shine a little. Then we'll do this side as well. Up, down, and one more time on this end. And that's going to be nice and sharp. And then also, before I did this, I did use a Lysol wipe and wiped it clean to remove any disease or any kind of germs that are holding from the previous tree. So you want to make sure you're cleaning your tools prior and after pruning each tree. Okay, so we are going to use a larger tool. This one cuts a capacity of 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to just sharpen this guy up, make sure it's nice and smooth cutting for us. Don't forget to use the coarse end down. Make sure it's all the way open. So you're getting the full blade. And we're going to just do a couple upward movements. And again on this side. Right where it meets the other blade. That's why it gets the name bypass pruner, because they bypass each other when they cut. That's very important that you're using bypass pruner. If you prefer to wear gloves, you should do so to protect your hand. So, and you also want to make sure that you're using the proper tools. So if it feels like your bypass pruners are not going to cut through a branch, that's when you would use your loppers to prevent injury in your hand or prevent you from breaking your tool. So we'll get started right with this one here. This one is growing across the tree. As you can see, it's growing vertically. It's doing all the things that we want to remove today. So I'm going to try and go ahead and just go straight forward down here. Remove a little bit at a time. We'll push all of our branches over there, and definitely going to take all of this out. Anything that's growing inward is coming out. This guy here, I may need to use the loppers for, but we'll see if we can get it. Oh, I got it. Okay. It's really important also that this is very smooth right here. We don't want to leave anything jagged. Like that just happened, and that's not good. So we're going to actually clean that up a little bit. with the pruning lopper, we want to make sure that that's as smooth as possible when we're finished with our cut. So I'm going to take, actually what I'm going to do, because this is growing the opposite way of the direction we want it to grow, I'm going to just go ahead and cut it right here to remove that piece, and then to just leave a nice sturdy branch below it. So we'll just put our lopper as is, and then push down. Nice and smooth cut is what we want. That's the result that we're looking for, okay? Also on this end, we're gonna go ahead and remove the downward growing branches. Okay, so here's a closer look at the cut that I just made. As you can see, it's nice and smooth as possible is what your goal is, to prevent scarring. If you leave a lot of scar tissue on the tree, then the tree's gonna end up using a lot of energy to try and heal that. And we don't want the energy focused here. We want the energy on producing new fruit for the spring. So again, just make sure it's smooth as possible. And it's also recommended sometimes to use a fungicide spray, like a horticultural spray called copper fungicide. You could spray it on the ends of these cuts right here to really prevent any type of disease or fungus from growing on these cuts. Okay, so next we're focusing on this area here. As you can see, these branches are growing down, straight down to the ground, which is definitely not going to be good when our fruit starts to come in. These are going to hit the ground and we'll lose all of our fruit, or if we may not even get any fruit. So we're going to cut here as close to the main branch as possible to prevent that from happening in the spring. So you're going to get your nice pair of sharp loppers. Try to do a nice smooth cut. As smooth as possible, and that's actually much better than the last one. I'm happy with that cut. Okay, now we're going to do this one here as well. Okay. All right, now anything that's growing vertically, which means straight up, is also going to come off. So we're going to be, I'm going to use my hand pruner for that one so I can get a little bit of a better cut. I'm going to remove this guy here first, okay? Next is going to be this one. Okay, so the reason we remove these vertical growing branches is because those are going to be considered cross branches that we're crossing these branches over here. Also, it's preventing our airflow. So don't forget that one of the goals today is to promote airflow inside the tree. We're creating that V shape to allow sunlight and cross-pollination to happen in between the tree. So the more airflow we have, the more production we're going to have. Well, we want to make sure that we're removing all of our spindly branches, which is going to be something like this. Tiny little wiggly branches that are growing vertically is what is considered a spindly branch. So you just only need your hand pruners for these. They come right off, nice and easy, and you want to remove all of them. And it's going to promote the tree to send out some new growth that's going to be more substantial and stronger. So we'll take this piece off as well, because that is not growing the direction we want it to. And you go all the way down to the base of the tree when you're doing this. But if you do have anything growing down here that's growing straight up out of the ground, make sure you remove those as well. Suckers are branches that grow from the roots and grow upward. So this is what's considered a sucker. You'll want to take your pair of pruners as low down to the soil as you can. So I just usually grab mine and then push my pruner down to the ground, snip it like that. And you're just going to want to investigate the whole area. Make sure you get all of them. So we're looking good. Sometimes you'll have quite a bit, so make sure you remove everything that's growing in this general area at the base of your tree. And you may need to do this again in the spring. I would recommend doing it any time that you see them growing. Suckers suck the energy from the tree, and that's why it's important to remove them. Okay, this one is getting close to being done. We're going to focus on getting this cleaned up at the top here. I'm going to actually be taking the top of this branch off. What would happen if this starts to grow fruit? This will snap very easily. So in order to prevent that from happening, we're going to go ahead and cut it down here where it's nice and strong still. We're looking for a bud that's swelling that is facing outward and not inward. So I believe I found one right here. So here's our bud that's facing outward. We want to make sure that we cut just right above that one that's going outward and not inward. If we do the one that's going inward, that's going to create cross branching, which is what we're trying to avoid. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it right there. straight across as evenly as we can. And now this branch is finished. Okay, so as I'm down here on my knees and looking up at the tree, you can see quite a mess going on here with a prime example of what cross branching is. So everything that's crossing one another is gonna come off today. I'm gonna actually be taking this whole piece off right here. So I'll start there first. Going to cut this right here as well. Okay, so when we have a piece like this, this is just a good example of why this tree needs pruning so bad. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this piece right here and try and get the tree to kind of straighten out this time around. We don't want all of our branches going the opposite direction. What we're looking for, again, is a horizontal shape, a V shape. We don't want all these crazy curves and turns like what's been going on here. So I'm gonna cut it here with the hopes of the branch straightening itself out this spring around. I'm gonna cut right here. Okay, and then I'm gonna take this whole branch off as well. So this is coming off right here. Okay, now this is a pretty substantial branch that should have been removed last year, but it was not. So we're gonna leave it because you never wanna take off too much of the tree at once. If you take off more than 25% of the tree, it will slow down your production. So we're gonna leave this, but we're gonna be taking off this branch and these cross branches over here and everything that's growing downward right now. Come around this side and I'm gonna cut it here. Okay. All right, looking good. Now this part that's pointing downward is coming off as well. Okay. Now we have a completed tree. This is what it should look like when it's finished. And I know it doesn't look like much, but this tree hadn't gotten pruned in a while. This is probably gonna be its 3rd year of production, I'm gonna say. So we removed everything cross growing. We're not gonna have, hopefully we won't have any disease or any fungus growing, and we will have all new growth, and we're gonna have nothing but cross pollination and sunlight happening on the inside of this tree, which is going to promote blossoms and a lot of fruit for us this year. All right, so last but not least, when you have completed your tree, especially if you have more than one tree to prune, you should always sanitize your tools. It's super, super important to prevent spreading disease. So what I use, which is really handy, are just regular Lysol wipes that you use in your kitchen. They're antibacterial, they disinfect, and they remove all the disease that could possibly be spread. So open up your lopper as far as you can. Give it a couple wipes on each side. Make sure you get inside the groove really good. Should do this often anyways, even if you're not pruning fruit trees, especially with your hand pruners if you're using them in your vegetable garden. And then leave it open like that for a second so it can dry. If they don't dry quickly, then make sure you use a towel or some type of fabric to get the moisture off of them so that they don't rust. Okay, so overall we've cut back quite a bit. It looks like a significant amount, but keep in mind that we're going to have nothing but new growth this season and more fruit than we had the previous year. So each season you're gonna be pruning back a little bit more than you did the year before. And you know, don't feel skeptical when removing this many branches because it's going to end in a good result. Thank you for watching today. For more educational videos, stay tuned on our Urban Farming Education YouTube channel.